Good evening. I hereby call this regular meeting of the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum is present and notice of this meeting was posted in accordance with our Texas Open Meetings Act. Board members Callie Pitcock and Beth App are unable to attend the meeting tonight. Please remember that all items do not have to be taken in the order shown on the agenda, and please join us in turning off your cell phones to silent mode. We thank you for joining us tonight. The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss the items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act and as allowed by the Texas Government Code sections 551.074 and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 5:01. That's it.
charged to care for and to train. We thank you for all of our teachers and all those that serve this district and this community. Watch over us and bless this time that we have together, and as we honor those that have served so well. We pray this to honor you, and amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. We did not receive any request to address the board as outlined in the meeting notice. If you wish to speak at a future meeting, please refer to the instructions on the meeting notice. The action item for board officers' elections will be moved to our second executive session. First up tonight is the student recognition, and Les Langberger will begin with our Cte State Qualifiers.
Good evening, Vice President Montoya, board members, Dr. Trujillo. Vice President Montoya, as you can see, I switched it up just a little on you. These are math counts team members here. Okay. But tonight we have students here for recognition from both Mike Moses and Nacogdoches High School. And once again, the Mike Moses team qualified for this math counts state competition held at the end of March in Austin. This is the 9th straight time the Mike Moses Math Counts team has qualified for the state level competition. And this is with the exception of some COVID-related issues, this is, I guess, the other 8 times, certainly they've been here except for once or twice. But, once in the competition, the students, this is extremely fast-paced. A couple of years ago, Mr. Watts, you had me come and I actually saw practice. And these students have to know this stuff. I mean, it is bang, bang, bang. There's no way that I would be able to think that fast, either when I'm 14 or at this advanced age now. But once in the competition, too, the students compete head-to-head, regardless of what grade they're in. So if a 6th grader's on your team, there's also always the chance that that 6th grader is going to be matched up against an 8th grader. So it's a truly intriguing competition, and these students, year after year, under Mr. Watt's leadership there, have done great things. Let me introduce the team here. 8th grader, Arman Rajani. 7th grader, Olivia Ejero. And 7th grader, Moira Diaz, along with their math counts coach, Mr. Andy Watts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we have some career and technical education students here from Nacogdoches High School. Now you may remember last month we recognized some CTE students who qualified for state, but I mentioned to you there were going to be more. And it turns out there's a lot more. And man, we're glad to have them here. These are students who competed in state competitions in April. with future health professionals and Texas public safety, and that includes things such as policing, crime scene analysis, and other related fields. In fact, Ms. Denbali, who works with the students in crime scene analysis, referred to some of these girls as her blood team. So a wide range of things here. First, I want to recognize the future health professional state qualifiers, and they are coached by Coy Van Valkenburg, and I don't know if she is here tonight or not. I did not see her beforehand. But first off, Janiyah Teal qualified in healthcare photography, and then a team that includes Melanie Beltran, Gabby Beckwith, Messiah Cross, and Jennifer Ramirez finished third in state in public service announcement contest over Be the Match. That third place qualification earns that team a trip to Nashville next month in an international competition. So they've done a fabulous job. Absolutely. Now, CTE students qualifying for state in the Texas Public Safety Competition, and these are coached by Monica Newberg, Chris Newberg, and Roya Denbali. The first team, this is Jessica Leon, Jamina Alvarez, Diego Hernandez, and Jedediah Stone in building search, Edgar Reyes in bunker gear, Gabriela Hernandez in inmate processing, Taylor Gates, Gianna Menifee, William Haynes, Ali Razvi, Sing Sing An, and Emmanuel Garcia with SWAT team. Janiyah Williams and Autumn Johnson in disturbance call. Gabriela Hernandez and Gianna Menifee in Correctional Institute. Keila Guadardo in foot pursuit. Emily Martinez in 911 call taking. Kayla Frost, Delcy Barretta, Collin, and Shabria Jenkins in crime scene investigation, and that team finished sixth in state. Sydney Gotcher and Angela Pigato in fiber analysis, which placed fifth in state. Isabella Baker, Jan Balderas, and Lorelei Parkhurst in blood pattern analysis. There's the blood girls right there. They placed second in state. Arayli Benuelos and Emma Cole in fingerprint analysis. A great job by these students. And you may notice I've called out a lot of names, but we've got some students taking part in the high school band concert tonight too. So that's where they're at. They're double dipping here. But we're pleased to recognize these students, and I greatly appreciate you all coming here tonight.
Great job, you guys.
Congratulations.
I believe we are now at the Teacher of the Year recognition. Mr. Les Lamberg.
Thank you, Vice President Montoya. It's the time of year when we honor and recognize our Teachers of the Year. Back in March, each campus selected its own Teacher of the Year, and those candidates completed an application for district, elementary, and secondary Teachers of the Year. Now, those two finalists are selected by a committee in the district and are now in the process of completing applications with the Education Service Center for the Regional Teacher of the Year competition, and I think we feel real confident in what they're going to be able to do with those applications. But I'm going to start here, and I'm going to introduce our Campus Teachers of the Year. Bryce Bain with Brooks Quinn Jones Elementary. We've got an award to present to you here. And Ms. Bain, if you would just stay up here and wait for the others as well. Tammy Colston, Emmeline Carpenter Elementary. Is Miss Poindexter here? Miss Poindexter. For Monica Poindexter, Fredonia Elementary. Deborah Lyons, Regay Elementary. Stephanie Harrison, Thomas J. Rusk Elementary. Maria Garcia, Mike Moses Middle School. Darius Tubbs, Nacogdoches High School. I think he came with a personal cheering section right there. Alex Chandler Easel, Margie Chumbly, Academy for Success. And Mr. Chandler Easel, I believe you're a repeat, aren't you? Great. Michael Cavill, DAEP Teacher of the Year. He's unable to be here tonight, but I wanted to make mention of him as well. Now, there's 2 names remaining, and these are our 2 district Teachers of the Year. The first one, Charles Medley, Nettie Marshall Academy of Dual Language Teacher of the Year, and our District Elementary Teacher of the Year. And Michelle Schaefer, McMichael Middle School Teacher of the Year, and our District Secondary Teacher of the Year. Thank you all very much for being here. I mean, you all have heard me say this in here before, but my wife's in her 30th year of teaching of high school, and so I know it's not just what happens between when the first bell rings and the last bell rings. I know what the nights look like. I know what Sunday afternoon at our house looks like when getting ready for that next set of lessons for the next week. So I greatly appreciate you all being here tonight. Vice President Montoya?
Yes, sir.
Would you all like to say some things? And also, would we like
open it
to...
the board members, but I would first like to say you guys are so valued, not only by the board, but by the community, by our students, because I saw some, it's just amazing. I had the opportunity to work with a lot of teachers as a social worker within ISD, and you guys work hard. You work hard, but you also believe in our students that we have, and thank you for supporting them and making them successful, because we couldn't do our jobs if you weren't doing your jobs. And I can't tell you enough, thank you. Thank you, and I'm sure parents feel the same way, because they probably go home and say, you know what my teacher told me today, you know what my teacher said I could do anything I can do, and I believe that, because that's the kind of teachers we have in our district. Thank you for your dedication to our students. Anybody else would like to say anything?
Thank you and congratulations.
Being the
Thank
daughter
you.
of a teacher, I know what those Sunday afternoons look like, and I can remember my dad. I remember asking him one time, why do you spend so much time? You know, what about, all these other things we could be doing? And he said, because not all the kids have what you have. And so that made him an exception to me. And I see that when you guys are standing in that seat. You are making such a difference to people. And I mean, unless you have somebody come back and tell you, you may not see it every day. But this is just one thing to tell you, thank you. And keep knowing that you're making a difference.
I'd like to say that each one of you has been selected as very special in what you do. You're very gifted and skilled and great passion. But we have many others like you. And what you have and give away freely is accepted by needy students. And you are changing your world every day in what you do. And the model that you set for them and for yourself is making a difference. Thank you for making a difference for NAC ISD and every dragon, no matter what they are and what their age is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coach?
I'm good. Everything what these people said, I echo.
Mr. Montoya, would you all like to come down and take a picture with our Teachers of the Year? Mr. Tubbs, just go and slide this way some so I can see your face. Now you're good. All right. Everybody, look right here on three. 1, 2, 3. Let me take another one just to be safe. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you all very
Sure, go ahead. This brings us to our next item on the agenda, item C, Superintendent's announcements. We'll turn this over to Dr. Trujillo for this month's good news.
Vice President Montoya and Board, just some additional tidbits of wonderful news. This is great for a young lady by the name of Nisa Galatas, whom I mentioned a couple of times prior to this meeting. It's official. And I want to say it's a tremendous honor. We cannot not recognize this in celebration that she's a National Merit Scholar. And now, that is amazing. That is amazing. Nisa is a senior at Nacogdoches High School and plans to attend the University of Texas, Dallas following graduation next week. She's the first National Merit Scholar for Nacogdoches ISD in 12 years. It hasn't been since Eric Klein has received the honor back in 2010. That was just outstanding news to receive this week, and we're all very proud of Nisa and look forward to what she will do next in her life. Pretty exciting for her. We've also got a lot of activities that are taking place in the next couple of weeks. Just to remind everybody, tomorrow the Nacogdoches High School Senior Awards Assembly will take place at the high school auditorium. Also tomorrow we have our Cte Signing Day, which will be held, and students who have already secured a job within their field of study or have been accepted to a college, university, or technical school to continue their CTE pathways and studies will be recognized tomorrow at 1:15 during the ceremony at Malcolm Rector Center for the Advance of Career and Innovation. The Signing Day event was organized through the partnerships with the Nacogdoches ISD and the CTE Department and the Deep East Texas Workforce Development Region, which is the headquarters in Lufkin. So we're pretty excited on that celebration. On Saturday, Nacogdoches ISD Fine Arts will hold Kaleidoscope Fine Arts Showcase at TJR, Thomas J. Rusk Elementary School. The doors will open for the art show at 5 p.m. and the concert will take place at 7 p.m. in the TJR Auditorium. Performance of the concerts will include band, choir, dragonettes, and more. A 112 combined elementary honor choir will also perform. Visual arts projects will be on display at 5 p.m. Let me tell you about the 120-member combined elementary choir, just for information's sake. These elementary children have been practicing in isolation. If you want to see magic, come out on Saturday evening and you will see these children come together as one choir, one voice, and they will put their songs together. So it's exciting to see the culminating project that they'll be able to display for all of us. At 4 p.m. Tuesday, May 24th, the renaming ceremony at Margie Chumley Academy for Success will take place at the Margie Chumley Academy of Success campus. On Thursday, May 26th, the Margie Chumley Academy of Academic Success will hold graduation ceremonies. It's hard to believe we're already talking graduation, but graduation ceremonies at the NHS Auditorium. The next night, that Friday, May 27th, then Nacogdoches High School will hold their graduation ceremony at the William R. Johnson Coliseum. It's incredible how this year has gone by so quickly, and it's graduation time already. It just feels like we need an extra day, hour, week, month for all of us. And one more thing, and it's a big thing, on Tuesday, May 31st, we will be holding the ribbon cutting and the grand opening for the new Emmeline Carpenter Elementary School. And the grand opening is from beginning at 10 a.m. to noon, and the ribbon cutting will actually be held at 11 a.m. at the school's gym. This is a culmination of what's now been years in the work, and we're really looking forward to the public seeing the amazing school that has been designed and ultimately created for our young children of Carpenter Elementary School. Dragons United, boy, that was a great event. That happened yesterday. It was hot, but it was great. A day of fun with our special education students that also involve their general education peers. It took place at the Dragon Stadium. The event was organized and is organized by the Student Support Services, but also gets a lot of help from student groups. It's not just the adults. It's a wonderful thing to see the children come out and support each other. Audiovisual, marketing, the culinary students from CTE. We had band students, dragonettes, cheerleaders from the fine arts, and we also had the National Honor Society, Student Council, Interact, and the Key Club. They all came out to celebrate and participate in the Dragons United event that we had scheduled yesterday. Beautiful event. Today, I hosted another meeting with the NISD Community Ambassadors. That happened this morning. We toured the existing Emmeline Carpenter campus. Then we took a look at the new Carpenter. Wanted them to see the old and the new. And jaws dropped when they were able to walk around and see what our children will be enjoying. Needless to say, they were astonished in the facility improvements we're about to put in place. The ambassadors also heard from various departments today. They heard from Ms. Barbrick, Mr. Whitaker, Dr. Salceda, and Dr. Young. Now we'll take off the summer months and give them a little bit of a break, and we will jump again on September 15th for our next session. And one update with the district's education foundation. At the end of April, the foundation learned that the IRS is now recognized this as a 501c3 organization, and that can now accept tax-deductible contributions. During the foundation's April meeting, the board named officers. Terrence Reeves is the board president and began laying out the groundwork for the fundraising campaign that will take place later this fall. The money raised by the foundation can fund a number of initiatives within the district, such as grants for teachers and staff that would pay for innovative projects that our teachers come up with that they want to put in their classrooms. So we see a big smile in the back. She's been working hard at it, and we appreciate the work you've been doing as the director of that program for us, for the Education Foundation. So that's some exciting things that are going on. I was reminded there's a little event with 5 kids this weekend at the First United Methodist Church. They will get their Eagle Badge. And that's a big deal to me. I have a son that got his Eagle Badge, and for any of our young men that go through Boy Scouts and go all the way to the end and get their Eagle Badge, I just want to put it out there. If you want to come see a future astronaut, because most of our astronauts are Eagle Scouts, some high-ranking officers in the national service that we have, they're Eagle Scouts, CEOs, Eagle Scouts. So come see the 4 to 5 Eagle Scouts that will get recognized this weekend at the First United Methodist Church. That's a plug, just an ad I wanted to put on there, Mr. Lineberger. So thank you so much for allowing me to share the great news that we got going on here in Nacogdoches.
Thank you, Superintendent Trujillo. This takes us to our next item on the agenda, item 7, consent agenda. Unless removed from the consent agenda, all items listed will be acted on one motion. If there is a board member who wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda separately, please indicate the agenda letter and it will be set aside for further discussion and a separate vote. Hearing none, I would like for someone to make a motion.
Mr. Vice President, I moved the board approve the consent agenda.
We have second.
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
Oop.
Okay. Motion passes. That will take us to our next item on the agenda, which is item number 8. Consideration of the 2023 compensation plan. Presenter Harold Whitaker. We're passing on these. Are we passing on? We have to have a discussion.
Yeah, that's what he's got to do.
All right.
Good evening, Vice President Montoya, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Trujillo. Today, this afternoon, I have the pleasure in bringing the compensation plan for the 22-23 school year. There isn't much changes that was made from Monday that was presented during the agenda review, but I do want to touch on a few items that were revised since Monday's meeting. So if you review on page 11, you will notice the revision of the water polo athletic stipend. Also on page 11, it was broken out the boys and girls coordinator for clarification and clarity on that position. On page 13, it was the addition of the campus webmaster stipend that was added to, again, allow the campuses that already have individuals working with their social media and their campus web pages to continue that addition of the work that they're doing. And on page 16, on pay grade 4, it was just a title change or correction. That position has already been in place, so there's no addition to that compliance coordinator. It was just revised from the old data analyst / federal coordinator. So that's just a new title change that has been in place. We wanted to get up to date on that position. So that's all the revisions that was made since Monday's agenda review. At this time, I'll entertain any questions from the board.
Any board members have any questions?
So, what you just pointed out, those are the only changes from what we saw on Monday?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If there's no questions, we need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Takes us to our next agenda item, consideration of bids for transportation generator project. Presenter Michael Martin.
Good evening, Vice President Montoya, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo. This afternoon, the bids were open for the Transportation Center generator project. It is recommended to award the project to White Electric with the bid of $174,700 and a total project cost of $187,200. We'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Is there any questions from any of the board members?
I have some questions. What is the brand of the generator?
Generac.
It's a Generac?
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Are there parts available in the United States, or did they have to come from China? Because Generac's made in China, isn't it?
Let me refer to my partner, Mr. Army Curtis, if you will join me, please. Ms. Robertson, if you'll join me as well.
Good evening. Parts for Generac are made throughout the world. So there are parts made in the United States, there are parts made in China, like most generators of that caliber right now.
Okay. And so this generator will run off of natural gas?
That's correct.
And is there gas access close by, or is part of this quote to run the gas to where the generator
No,
will
the
be?
building currently has natural gas in it. It has a service. The building uses gas heat.
Okay.
And so we're merely tapping into that line to feed the generator.
This appears to be very reasonable for what we're getting, and that's why I was going like, this just sounds too cheap. So I think we're doing a real good job on this, but I think it's important that we not only look at this, but we look at, can we get parts when we need them, and do we have somebody that will fix it? And because this is a local company, it appears to fix all those. We're pre-planning success, and so
Yeah,
I think this is well thought out.
Yeah,
Good job.
the generator itself is a 200 kW machine. It is sized to handle the entire transportation facility, including the fuel depot island. We don't have a maintenance agreement in place yet. It was not part of the bid, but the initial warranty for the machine and the labor that is installed, the initial labor is a 1-year warranty on it. The Generac company warrants it for 5 years. So that's parts, labor, and transportation to the facility for any repair work that might need to be done. So that first 5 years, you're covered from any breakdown, if you will.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we need a motion.
Mr. Vice President, I move the board approve the bid from White Electric for $174,700 and the total project cost $187,200.
Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
Groman second by Dr. Groman. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. Our next item on the agenda is consideration of Brooklyn Jones re-roofing project. Presenter Michael Martin.
Thank you, Vice President. If I may direct the board's attention to page 128 in your board book. Bids were opened for the BQJ Kitchen Re-Roof project on Wednesday, May 18th, 2022. It is recommended to award the project to Corney Roofing with a bid of $135,366 and a total project cost of $154,816. Again, we'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any question by the board? Hearing no questions, we need a motion.
I guess, Mr. Vice President, I guess I'll go ahead and motion again. I move the board approve the bid from Corney Roofing for $135,366, total project cost of $154,816 as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Reverend Irwin. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried.
Thank you, board.
That brings us to our next item on the agenda, item 10, an executive session. The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss the items posted on our agenda.
Wait, we have-
Mr. Montoya.
We have another item there.
Oh, we have one more?
Yeah, the
We have
reports.
number 9.
9A.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we have one more item on the agenda, which is the item not under number 9A, delinquent tax collection report. Lisa Barber.
Good evening, Vice President Montoya, Dr. Trujillo, board members. Tonight, we have a report from our tax collection attorneys. They're with Purdue and Brandon, and we have Patrick Woods and Douglas Burnside to make their presentation.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good evening, gentlemen.
All right. Dr. Trujillo, board, we really appreciate you having us. It's our pleasure to be here. I want to move through the report here, and then I can introduce my team, and we can kind of get into what we're going to speak about tonight. We began our work for the school district on July 1 of last year, and you hired us because we came and we thought we could really fulfill a good service for the school district. And we call that the Purdue Brandon Advantage. This is the intersection of experience, reputation, and performance. And we're going to show you tonight some of the things that we've been working on since July 1 of last year, collecting your delinquent property taxes. And that is the specific service that we do for the school district. I want to introduce our team. So my name is Patrick Woods, and I'm the partner in the Tyler office, and I'm the one responsible for the Nacogdoches ISD account. Of course, but everybody has a boss, and I brought mine here with me tonight. And this is Douglas Burnside, and he is our managing partner. He manages the Tyler, Garland, and Plano offices and oversees all the operations that affect your school district right here. So what is it that we do specifically, right? We collect your delinquent property taxes. And we have an office here in Nacogdoches at the appraisal district. And I have Maria Setterfield here, and she is our legal assistant there. And she is primarily responsible for seeing all of the taxpayers that come into that CAD. and she works with the taxpayers there to set up payment agreements, to talk to them about any issues they may be having with their delinquent property taxes. And of course, I'm here once a week. If any taxpayer would like to meet with myself or Doug, they can always schedule an appointment. We're happy to meet with them at any time. Purdue Brandon has 14 offices across the state of Texas. We have 58 licensed attorneys. We have a support staff of about 400, and we represent school districts just like Nacogdoches all across the state, and we take that job very, very seriously. We do one thing. Our law firm does one thing, and that is collect delinquent property taxes for school districts. What do we do specifically? So, right, we get your delinquent tax roll July 1 of each year, just like we did last year, and we have a one-on-one approach, and we really do mean that. If somebody goes delinquent in your community, we talk to that person. We have a one-on-one approach. We will talk to them, see if they're going through a hardship. During COVID, we really took this very seriously. Did you lose a job? Are you going through a hardship? Is there a way we can help you? Because the last thing we want to do is put somebody in more of a hardship if there's a way that we can help that person, okay? We send out letters when people go delinquent. We call. We do everything that we can to get them into our office and talk to them about payment agreements, anything that we can do to help that taxpayer. We also have a strategic litigation plan. Every school district is different, right? And we've taken a look at your delinquent tax roll, and Doug and Maria and I, we have tried to work a lot of the old stuff when we want to tackle the new stuff, but there was a big backlog, and we are trying to work through some of those cases, okay? Because there is a lot there, and that's kind of what we did for the school district here. Anytime a business goes delinquent in your community, we go out there to look at that business. We talk to the business owner, if it's a restaurant, if it's a construction site, a car dealership, whatever it is, we try to take a personal approach, go out there, talk to them, and see if there's a way that we can help. And of course, look, anytime there's a business or somebody that goes bankrupt, we are in federal bankruptcy court in Tyler. We file in for the school district, and I'm always there in bankruptcy court representing Nacogdoches ISD. Of course, we have an office here in the appraisal district. Maria's here. I mentioned that. We have local presence. We're involved with your local Chamber of Commerce, Crime Stoppers, the Lone Star Legislative Summit. We were there. Anything that we can get involved in the community of Nacogdoches, we're there. And of course, the office is a convenience for your taxpayers, and we're a resource for the appraisal district. We also do the litigation work and the general counsel work down at the appraisal district. We work with your chief appraiser, Jason Malott. Good young chief appraiser we have down there. We work with them as well if there's a way that we can help. Last thing I'll say, and I'll hand it off to Doug because people don't want to hear me talk all night, is that reputation really does matter. And you have hired a great law firm. And we've been here about a year. We take honesty, integrity, and our ethical duties to this school district very, very seriously, as we would any other school district. I work for Tyler ISD, a number of school districts in East Texas, and ethical conduct and integrity is really important to us, and you will always get that from our law firm. I'm going to hand it over to Doug, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the dollar figures that are important tonight.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Sure.
You know, since we're getting a collection report, we want to talk about collections too. You know, we've been working really hard for the last not quite a year to get your collection numbers up. One thing I want to explain about how we calculate percentages in our industry, how you look at it, is that there are two numbers that we look at. We look at the turnover collection numbers, which are the most recent tax collection year, and then your all years collections, which is your entire delinquent roll. The Arch collection cycle runs from July 1, which is when the taxes are turned over to us for collections, into June 30th. So this cycle right here that we have a graph for is for the 2020 tax year. So those were turned over to us on July 1, 2021, and there was about $586,000 in base levy turned over. And through March 31st, we'd collected $315,000, which is a little more than half of it. Projected out through the year, we should be around 60%, and that's what the goal we try to reach is get into the 60s, because that means we're actually doing a good job and we're keeping your tax roll clean and preventing your tax roll from growing. And then there's also the all years collections. And again, we haven't had a full collection cycle yet, but so far we're at 32.14 for your entire tax roll. Your entire tax roll is big. Taxes go back, I think we have taxes on your roll that go back into the 70s. And now a lot of those, we're working with the appraisal district to remove a lot of those old years because the law does allow us to what's called write those taxes off, where once it gets beyond a certain age, beyond the statute of limitations where we could even file a lawsuit, we can remove from the roll. And so we're in the process of getting a lot of that old stuff removed from your roll. But it goes way back. And so we're working at that. So the 32.14 number is a low number. And so when we come back and talk to you again next year, you're going to see a higher number than that, and I promise you that, because we're working really hard on getting those all years numbers down. So what does your tax roll look like right now? This is a breakdown of your roll. And as Patrick talked about earlier in our collection process, we have, there are two types of collections. There are soft collections and hard collections. And the stuff that's in the pre-litigation right now, that's the phone calls, the letters, keeping the lines of communication open with your taxpayers. We want to get taxes paid before we have to file a lawsuit. Because if we have to file a lawsuit, that adds a lot of additional costs onto your taxpayer. Every time we file a lawsuit, they're probably looking at a minimum of $1,000 extra cost that they have to pay. And obviously, that makes it more difficult for them to pay the amount that they actually owe you. So we're trying to get it paid. You saw with the 2020 year where we're going to hit 60% of collections, and of those, we're probably only going to file lawsuits on a very small percentage of your taxpayers. But filing lawsuits is something we have to do. Again, right now we have about 32% of your roll that's in litigation. Obviously on this tax roll right here, it's a snapshot of what your tax roll looked like on May 5th. And so every time we file a lawsuit, those lawsuits get paid. And so again, that number shrinks, but then it grows again when we file more lawsuits. So that's what we're working on. One category that's always of interest to people is your deferrals. That category, you actually only have 11% of your roll in deferral, which is pretty small. For those who aren't aware, a deferral is people at their homestead and they're over 65 or they're disabled. And for that portion of the tax roll, by law, we can't pursue litigation against them. The school district can't force anything on those people. Those individuals, obviously that we don't want to, because for people who are elderly, for people who are disabled, we want to make sure that they can keep their homes and they don't get taxed out of their houses. And so that's what that portion of your tax roll, 11% is actually a very low number. As we go along in future years, you're going to see that percentage of the tax will grow because A, the community ages, and then B, everything else is going to be shrinking. And that's our goal. So to achieve these numbers, what have we done? So the category on the right is the last year that would last, 10 months that we've been doing it. We've actually filed 64 lawsuits on behalf of the school district. In the prior 5 years before our representation from a different firm, they filed a total of 38 lawsuits in 5 years. So we've been working really hard to try and get your roll cleaned up because, again, those taxes go back really far, so we're trying to do that. We've posted 10 properties for sale, and one of those 10 paid before the sale, 7 of them were sold. Just a word about sales. Our objective is not to sell people's properties. Our objective is to get it paid beforehand. As one of my partners likes to say, us selling someone's property is a failure in our collection process. We take people's property rights very seriously, and I'm sure all of y'all do too, and we don't want to use that as a major collection tool. And so, we've only had 7 properties that have been sold, and Maria, do you know the number of delinquent accounts? I think it's around 1,100 total. So it's a very small number of the field. But again, sometimes you don't have a choice, you have to. And most of those 7 properties that were sold are abandoned properties anyway. One of the initiatives we are starting with the city of Nacogdoches is we're going to start helping clean up some of the areas of town where there's a lot of abandoned properties through what's called a tax warrant process, a real property tax seizure. And so you're probably going to see a lot more properties sold on that, but just keep in mind that every one of those properties will be abandoned properties, because in order for us to be able to use that procedure that we can use with only cities, that's one of the requirements. It has to be abandoned for more than a year and have multiple years of delinquent taxes and city municipal liens on it, such as mowing liens. All right, does anyone have any questions?
Could I add something right quick, Vice President Montoya, and to the board? This was a very, before we jumped in and developed a relationship with each other, we had some really good conversations with each other. I was extremely, and the team that sat down, we were extremely appreciative of the gloves, the kid gloves we use to work with our taxpayers. So when you hear this, it sounds as if we're going, but here's the situation that we run into. The burden is on the taxpayers that do pay their taxes. And then we have individuals, for whatever reason, that for years have not kept up with that, so the burden falls on the taxpayer. The other thing is we're looking at properties. And for the ultimate look of the community is how can we put back on the tax rolls property that can actually benefit the city of Nacogdoches that have just gone gone astray for years. And so twofold, I wanted to make sure that the board understood is the relationship when we started, I was extremely pleased with the fact that we're going to put gloves on and we're going to be and I'm not talking boxing gloves. I'm talking the white gloves where we're going to handle it very gingerly, have conversations with our taxpayers to encourage and to support them in whatever we need to do. But there comes a point that we need to go ahead and move forward so that it can benefit all of the taxpayers in the community as far as what we're looking for and working with the community. So I just wanted to make sure to share that with the board, that relationship that we have. The other thing is, this is a firm that this is all they do. This is their number one job, and they don't moonlight doing other things. So this is exciting opportunity for Nacogdoches ISD. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say thank you very much for a clear and concise presentation. There were members of the audience behind you shaking their heads saying, I understand that, understand that. And also the people that are tuned into us that watch this presentation, this is very professional, very good, and y'all are cleaning up a mess that's been around for a long time. And I know that takes more of your time and efforts, but what you're doing is you're helping the children that we use that money to educate our children. So thank you for being advocates for our children in a kind and gentle way, trying to do it in the least invasive and detrimental way. I think you have a very positive approach, and we do appreciate, at least I do, how simple and understandable it is today in what you've done. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for those kind words. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Brings us to our next agenda item under 9B, Solution Tree RTI at Work Academy Report. Dr. Dana Hill.
Good evening, Vice President Montoya, Board of Members, as well as Superintendent Trujillo. Thanks for this opportunity to visit with you. This is kind of a culminating event of our RTI partnership with Solution Tree. You guys graciously approved the contract back in July, and it was asked at that point or requested, could we have some feedback? And so I have that for you tonight, so I hope you'll be pleased with the information that we presented, but we also have some personal narratives that I think is the jewel of the presentation. But we'll briefly give you an overview of what the Academy or what the purpose was. You'll see it's to provide educational leaders with the knowledge, tools, and skills to effectively transform their schools. I do want to point out RTI is now, the name of it is now becoming MTSS at the state level, which is the multi-tiered system of support. So they're the same, but yes, we can thank the state for now changing the acronym for us.
Just one more acronym.
It's one more that we have to memorize.
Okay, just making sure.
So, continuing on with the purpose of the Academy, it's to build some systems, to learn some concepts and some applications. So we're looking at how do we identify our students for interventions, whether it's through progress monitoring, doing some universal screeners, designing and executing a plan of action. That's, I think, was one of the most beneficial pieces where they would almost chunk and chew the information that we were learning. And so they would give us time, it would be a teach time, but then they would turn us loose as campus teams to design a plan of action. And they were incrementally placed throughout the calendar year so that it would be a teach piece for 2 days and then implementation and then some specific feedback. So these are just who all participated and the materials that we received. So this year, it was a pilot year, so we had 3 campuses, BQJ, Carpenter Elementaries, as well as McMichael Middle School. So we had 6 days of face-to-face academy days with Solution Tree. We had 2 coaches. Both were focused on RTI. We did have a 3rd coach for PLC. That's the last line that you see up there. We had 17 additional face-to-face coaching days, and what that consisted of those 2 or those 3 coaches would come on and work with those specific campus teams. The pieces that you see at the bottom were just 4 additional books. that were acquired as part of being a part of the academy. Overall, there were about 25 participants that participated with us this year. So some of the expectations of learning, so I did a pre-survey and a post-survey. And so this information that you see on this slide are 3 testimonials from 3 different viewpoints of what they expected to acquire as a result of the academy. So I'll just pause, let you read a couple of lines, and I'll maybe draw out some key points. The first one you'll see is from Markia Hammock. She's a math interventionist at BQJ. So she expected to learn how to coach the teachers on the campus, how to respond to students' needs to ensure that all students, not just some, but all students, are learning on grade level while being served through response to intervention. The second one is Miss Lauren Canty. She's a reading interventionist, also at Brooks Quinn Jones. Learn the roles of the teacher teams, leadership teams, school-wide teams, and how to connect in implementing the RTI services for our students. And then lastly, you have Stephanie Reeves, who is a math department chair, as well as a math interventionist at McMichael. Help teachers work with students, especially during win time. That's what I need time. That's the specific name that McMichael Middle School calls their intervention period during the instructional school day. We wanted to make sure that we effectively use that time to serve our HB 4545 students and make sure they received the supports that they needed. So now we're going to switch to a couple of testimonials. So Miss Bryce Bain, she was the elementary BQJ Teacher of the Year. So I'm going to pause and we're going to let her speak.
So this RTI Training Academy has taught me how to be a more intentional teacher with my practices and how I can assess children, how to respond to those assessments if they haven't learned what they need to learn. So how to intervene when needed. I think that's very important because we tend to look at the RTI process as just, oh, well, they didn't get it, let's move them, and that's not what it is at all. And so these trainings have really opened my eyes in a way that's helped me be more intentional with that. Okay, well, if they didn't understand what I taught them, let me reteach it. Let me then intervene before we overload the Tier 3 system. I feel like this has made me a better leader on my campus because I've learned things. I'm a third-year teacher, and I've learned things that 10-year, 15-year teachers have not learned before. And so it definitely has made me a better teacher, and I think it would be very beneficial to extend these academies to more teachers, more administration at other campuses, because in order for us to be a true professional learning community, you need collaboration, and these trainings have helped me collaborate with my teammates and all across my campus. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do these trainings, and I would suggest it to many people. Okay, let's start.
And next we have Miss Lindsay McInich, Carpenter principal.
As a result of participating in the RTI at Work Academy, our campus has been able to refine our planning and collaboration processes around specific learning targets. This has ensured that all teacher teams know exactly what will be taught, how it will be taught, and what students must be able to do with each target to show mastery. Several teachers have shared that their confidence in planning has increased this year.
So I have to pick on Miss McInich because I wasn't a part of the filming of these. And so I asked Mr. Linebarger this evening, I'm like, was she reading that? And I think Mr. Linebarger was her cue card, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you, Miss McInich. And then lastly, we have Jessica Anderson. She's an English language arts teacher at McMichael Middle School.
As a result of participating in the RTI at Work Academy, I was able to completely transform my view on planning and specifically backwards design. So we were able to take what we consider the end goal in teaching is teaching to the level of the depth and complexity of the TEKS. And it's our end goal, which would be our STAR test or our unit exams, our end test.
However, with this process, the RTI work process, we focus more on formative assessments and short-term goals and levels of mastery at those assessments rather than at the end, which in turn then creates this process of, on your end goal, mastery levels even being higher, significantly higher compared to where they were. In my classroom alone, just from using this process this year, I had 70% of my students show growth between their 6th grade STAR test and their 7th grade reading benchmark. As a grade level team, I led my PLC in this process, and we showed 65% of our students showed growth between last year's STAR test and this year's benchmark. And our passing percentage went up by 11% between last year and this year just by using this process. So I would say the RTI at Work process has completely, revolutionized the way that we are teaching in the classroom and has been instrumental in seeing this growth that we've shown in our classrooms.
Just want to publicly thank those 3 women for taking the time out of their busy schedules, and then I know how difficult it is to be recorded and then to see it in public view. So what we would like our next steps to be is to be able to sustain the great work that we have already created by continuing the work with Solution Tree, bringing in those same campuses, but then to also bring on or onboard some additional campuses and teacher teams so that they can experience the great work that's already happening on those campuses. So I'll entertain any thoughts, questions?
I think we're getting our money's worth.
I think we are. It was an expensive contract, I understand, but we had the opportunity, or I had the opportunity of sit with one of the coaches today at one of the middle schools, or at McMichael Middle School, and so it was nice for, teams from both campuses to sit around the table with him and to have these very frank conversations in setting up some processes and procedures as we look forward to next year.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Dr. Hill, thank you for that, for bringing us up to speed on how it all went. It's one thing when you spend the money, but when you can see that, a year later where all it's been, and I hope that we get to see, as you roll it out,
so too.
some more feedback on how it's going. Would love to see
We will
that.
continue that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I may add something here that, and I go back to, Dr. Groman asked some really good questions when we were talking about the generator. Is it from China? Do we have the parts? Can we get it serviced? What's amazing is when, as a board, we come together and we make investments and the community sees it. They see a building. We're going to have a ribbon cutting over at one of our beautiful facilities. The Dragon buses. Boy, you can see them coming. They look mean as they're coming down. And all the different things we do. But I commend this board for wanting to know the investments that you can't really see, but the investments that go into the minds and the practices in our classroom. Because yes, it's expensive, but I will tell you this, that when you hear the professionals speak about how we're investing in them and investing on how meeting the needs of the kids, that's truly what it's about. It's really how do we arm our teachers so that when they're providing instruction, and I know I'm going to dig in the weeds, but you got Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. But Tier 1 meaning right in the classroom, right where it needs to happen. And we've got great principals out here that are leading it, but they need some support with this kind of a partnership so that we can come in here. What we need to do, though, is really invest in the expansion of this. It's not only good for those 3 campuses, it's good for all kids. We say that in our statements. We say that it's for all kids. So as we continue to see this, I want to celebrate with this board that we see the value in providing things that are not so tangible. But we can come back and present to you the results of what that investment is giving to the lives of our kids. So I commend Dr. Hill, you and your staff, because coordinating this, I commend those principals in the back, PLCs, sitting down in those groups with those teachers and diving in and becoming experts as well, and the teachers that come in and do this. So I want to celebrate with the board that sometimes the investment is not so quite seen, like a generator and all the parts and all the things, but it's in the people that we have. So I wanted to publicly say thank you, and thank you to the board for that investment for something that you can't really see it, but you know it's happening, and we'll definitely bring it forward so you can see more of the successes and the data.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. That brings us to our next item on the agenda, under 9C, School Health Advisory Council Yearly Update. Michael Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Please, Mr. Chair, I would like to yield the floor to Mr. Amari Targan, Director of Student Management and Operations, who will give a year in review of the School Health Advisory Council meetings.
Good evening, Vice President Montoya, School Board, Dr. Trujillo. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you all about this year's Student Health Advisory Council. I'm hoping I'm pushing the right buttons here. Here we go. So the Student Health Advisory Council, we call that the SHAC. We met 4 times this year as a whole. And I'm basically going to go through what we did, our agendas, and what we talked about. So on our first meeting, it was kind of a long meeting, we introduced the purpose of the SHAC. We discussed Senate Bill 9 and House Bill 1525, and those particular bills dealt with new procedural issues that we need to take care of, like different types of postings that we have to make, types of meetings we have to abide by. And what we need to discuss. We needed to look at physical activity, we needed to look at recess and how we structured that, as well as start looking at getting the community involved in this as well. So we went over that. Each one of our meetings, we did a COVID update. We also had Ms. Kelly Poole give us a vision and hearing screening update. We had Ms. Ruby Ramon and our social workers talk about the Expect Respect and what we're doing with that. And then we have the Texas A&M University Extension Office presentation brought to us as well. In December, we received a social and emotional learning update. We went over the COVID update. We established a physical activity and fitness planning subcommittee. That is one of the new things that we had to do under Senate Bill 9 and the House bill. We received a presentation from the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council of Deep East Texas, and then we had Dr. Bain, an SFA assistant professor, talk to us a little bit about physical education. In February, once again, we did a COVID update. We had a physical education textbook adoption presentation, and so we took a look at that. And then we were lucky enough to have a TCU professor, Dr. Debbie Ray, visit with us. She is a LINK project creator and director, and she presented information regarding the benefits of structured and unstructured play. And it was very eye-opening, to say the least. And then in April, we had a Fitnessgram update. We looked at the NISD wellness policy and assessment presentation that we had brought to us. And then once again, we had Dr. Bain actually do a true presentation to the board in regards to physical education in elementary students. So the amazing thing about the committee members or the council members of the SHAC is that they are all in, and they are looking for the professionals, the experts, to talk to us about what we need and what we're doing. And so that's why we brought in our professors, and we brought in our incredible people from the district to talk to them, and it was a great year for us. So, do you have any questions?
I just wanted to expand a little bit for the people who will watch this at another time. They're not aware of the School Health Advisory Council, or SHAC as we call it. It's a very complicated committee because there's you have to have this person, that person, the other person, and most of those are volunteers.
Yeah.
And they don't get compensation. And the purpose is to help the health of our students. And so volunteers, I believe Dr. Eddie Furness serves as a physician portion for that.
Yes, sir.
So what I wanted to just give us an idea of how many people serve, but what I also wanted to say with that is thank you to each person who serves and each person that comes and presents to those people, because of this, it's helping our students in the health portion of our caring for the whole child in this district.
Yes, sir.
So you have an approximate number, how many?
Yes, sir. I did not bring the list with us, but it's right around 15 that do it, and we have a number of different professions that are part of this.
Yeah,
We have doctors, we have doctors, we have parents, we have community members, we have professors, and we have our local as well, our NISD employees as well. So it's a full range of very top-notch people.
Thank you so much, because I think that helps us convey to the people that are watching this later that they understand better the workings of this particular committee.
Yeah, and one correction, when Dr. Groman said most are volunteers,
they're all
100% are volunteers, so it's a great group of folks that we celebrate they're able to come in. And this year, our legislative session, they made this a priority. When you look at some of the changes that happened with the legislative work, it dealt with tightening up, and almost the SHAC can almost be viewed as a school board, but they are governed by policy. They're elected offices, and there's topics that need to be covered. And Mr. Tarvin, thank you for your work. Because you do volunteer for this as well, or should I say you were voluntold
I'm happy to do it.
And I graciously appreciate the work that you do there, and I'm sure the board shares that, the work that you've done. And our committee is blessed to have you, but also very blessed to have some very capable individuals that want to be part of this amazing task force that is also helping us become and maintain a safe school environment. And you saw the topics, structured and unstructured play and all the things. Boy, that's amazing, so that we can work on the safety of our kids, and we appreciate the work you've done. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And thank the group for us. We appreciate them and volunteering their time.
Absolutely, I will do that. Thank you.
That brings us to our next agenda item on the agenda, item 10, executive closed session. The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss the items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act and allowed by Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.0.72, 551.0.74, and 551.0129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of the discussion in closed sessions will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 7:15.
1 second.
Is that not correct?
Yes, Mindy was going to make the motion for you.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mindy.
Okay, I think we're tired. I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation and to propose non-renewal of the term contract of Jana Johnson, and I further move to direct the superintendent to provide written notice of this action to the employees as required by policy.
I second the motion.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. Action item, we will now conduct board officers' elections and reorganize the board for 2022-2023. The nominations are now in order to elect the president of the Board of Trustees. Do I have any nominations for president?
Mr. Vice President, I nominate the Reverend James Irvin for president.
Nomination for president for Reverend Irwin has been made. Are there any further nominations for president? All those in favor of Reverend Irwin as president of NISD Board, raise your right hand. It's unanimous decision. Reverend Irwin is our new president. I'll turn it over to you.
Continue.
Do I continue?
Yes, sir.
I have to continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Doing a good job.
Okay. We will now have nominations for vice president.
This
Do we-
is not, this is against our policy. The policy that we read tonight says that once the president's elected, the president runs the meeting.
That's what I understood. So,
So if we just elected you president, Reverend, you
It's on
have to
you,
run the
man.
meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Grumman.
Thank you, Dr.
Do you
Roman,
have
for calling it to our attention. This time, we will hear nominations for the vice president of the board for 2022-2023 school season.
Mr. President, I nominate Mr. Montoya for the vice president.
Are there any other nominations? If not, the nominations are closed for vice president, and now we'll entertain a motion for the vice president of the board.
I just made the motion that Mr. Montoya.
Oh, you made the
We don't wanna
nomination.
vote.
Oh, vote.
All in favor? Say it. Oppose? Thank you, Mr. Montoya. This time, we'll hear a nomination for the board secretary.
I nominate Mindy Winslow, secretary of the board.
Are there any further nominations for the office of secretary? If not, the nominations are closed for that office. All those in favor of Ms. Mindy Winslow as secretary, would you raise your right hand? That is a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Oh, I guess I better finish my responsibility, don't I? Okay. That brings us to our last item on the agenda, and that is a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I second the motion.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I stepped out a minute. I don't know.